Now that the current event over here on the NA side of things is wrapping up, or I guess kind of nearing its end, because we have about 10 or 9 days, depending on when this video is going to be going up on the channel, but we can start looking at some of the other things that we should be getting, as they should be dropping one of the next 2 campaigns over here on the NA side of things. Now, the other one that they could drop is the Advanced Quest Part 10, but whenever that releases, I'll go ahead and actually do a video on it. The other thing that I think is going to be very interesting for a lot of players is the Singularity Repair Support campaign. Not necessarily for the campaign itself, but because it does bring a lot of reruns for a lot of limited characters that are quite popular. So I just kind of wanted to throw this out there as a heads up, letting you guys know that there are some strong guys that are coming back, and it will be starting with an absolute banger. So strap in, get comfortable, and hey, if you feel so inclined, maybe leave a like on the video, maybe subscribe to the channel. Helps me out more than you know, absolutely free. But anyway, with all that being said, let's start jumping into this, starting off with the first banner that we're going to be getting, or at least the first major banner, and that is going to be the Orleans banner. And you can guess this is going to be bringing Jalter back. Now, she's in a very interesting, kind of situation right now, because Jalter is one of those servants that's always just been pretty decent. She doesn't really fall off because her attack is just so high, and her crits are pretty nasty because of that. Then they gave her an NP damage buff, so she's doing even more damage and is bombing stars. Then they decided to give her a 50% battery when Ordeal Call 2 drops, and so she's always just relatively good. She can be very strong in pretty much any scenario. You want to bring her to fight a boss, good, she'll be able to beat up the boss, has her own survivability, and now if you want to use her in 90++ nodes against, say, like a Berserker, or I don't know, there's some random really large ruler, or you just really invested into your Jalter, you might even just be able to bring her neutral, depending on, maybe if it's like a mid-wave enemy or something along those lines. She's just always rather strong for those reasons. I mean, technically, she also has kind of a niche against fellow Avengers, because if you use her coins on the anti-Avenger attack damage aptitude, you get a 30% damage bonus against them. Suffice to say, she's a really strong servant. She's not bad at all whatsoever, and she goes on right up with Lancelot, which I think is a little bit interesting, because if you don't have a quick looper, Lancelot's not a bad one. Now, again, you do want to cop a couple of copies of him, because I don't think Lancelot really starts getting decent to good until you start getting him to like 3, 4, and 5 on the NP levels. But because you're probably going to be going really hard on the Jalter banner, if you're going to be summoning for her anyway, you'll probably snag a couple of copies of Lancelot on the way. And hey, it also does kind of help that Giles, who's a story lock servant, is also there. I mean, you're probably never really going to use that guy, but hey, at least you can probably NP5 a story lock 3-star. Maybe they'll make him really good moving into the future, who knows. I mean, look at Iskandar, like that guy got 1 buff and he went from 0 to hero in like overnight, so who knows what they'll do with that. But yeah, Jalter is the first major banner I think that's coming out. There's the Jean one over there that has like Marie and Guile Saber on it, but I always advise people to not summon on the servants that are not limited or story locked. I mean, I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I summoned for Jean, I think last year around this time when she came back, but Jean is one of my favorite characters in Fate, so again, if you do like her like that, she's one of your favorite servants, you can go for them. But again, the fact that you could be randomly spooked by one of these servants, and again, they are going to be in that available pool of free 5-star servants that we're going to be getting, it just doesn't feel as good to go for them as opposed to some of these limited servants. But I've simped for Jalter enough. As you guys know, I am a huge fan of Jalter. But now we can go ahead and start moving on to the next major servant that's going to be coming back around, and that is on the 6th summoning campaign, and that's going to be bringing back Dantes. Now, Dantes is also an Avenger, much like Jalter, but he serves a very different role. Say you get really shafted on your Jalter summons, or maybe you're not going to be summoning over there and you still want a good quick looper, Edmund Dantes is always going to be just relatively good. Again, like Jalter, he does a lot of damage, has a very good NP gain buff, while also having a very big 50% battery. So if you just need yourself a quick looper, this guy is going to be your man. Now, you may have heard as a new player or a veteran player that you got to get these guys to like NP2 or 3 to have them at least be decent. That's like both true and not true at the same time. I mean, you can still do farming at NP1. It's just, if this is going to be your main farmer, you want them to be able to clear everything comfortably. So you do want to invest in those NP2 or 3 levels. That's why, when Summer Ibuki came out, a lot of people were going for additional copies, because if she's going to be your main looper, you want to guarantee that she's going to be able to clear the content. So Dantes is much the same way. But I also know that, hey, if you just like the guy, you're a Danganronpa fan, and you just like the fact that he's drawn in the same art style, maybe that's why you want to summon for him, NP1 will be fine for those purposes, or just farming normal free quests he'll be able to do. But if you want to bring him to like 90+, or God forbid 90 plus plus whenever we have the few nodes that are actually really good for quick servants. I think we had one that had like 6 enemies on it, and people were like, oh my goodness, it's finally time. Quick is going to be able to do this 90 plus plus stage. If you want him to do stuff like that, suffice to say you're going to want to go for additional copies. And I do think he is one of those servants that is worth using your Saint Quartz on if you are in the need of a good quick looper, although then again, we do seem to be getting a lot of quick AoE servants as of late, so if you want to wait for some of the other ones and you don't want to spend your Saint Quartz over here, that's also perfectly fine. And then the final banner that I want to highlight over here is this gargantuan, just Epic of Remnant banner over here. It is Summoning Campaign 9. Where, look, even though I am a huge fan of Moriarty, I know that I really probably cannot glaze him enough for people to want to go summon for him, so I'm not even going to try. Even though I do think he's decent, you can do some very funny stuff with him. Again, I don't think anybody's going to be going for him because you have Masashi as the 3rd banner that's going up. It starts off with Moriarty, then Scheherazade goes up, then it goes to Masashi, and then ends with Abigail. And Masashi's only going to be up for 3 days, or I guess if you're like me and you also really would like to go for those Moriarty copies, he'll also only be available for 3 days. Same thing goes for like Scheherazade and Abigail. So you really want to be on the ball for these ones. But it is also kind of nice that Masashi's the 3rd one, because if you do want to go for her, that's additional days that you just get to log in, you know, get some extra Saint Quartz here and there. Although also do keep in mind that Masashi's banner on the JP side of things ran at like the very end of November. This, you know, like support campaign that they're going to be throwing out there, it's a very, very long campaign. It ran from October 27th to November 30th on JP. So don't think it's going to be like Jolter week 1, Masashi week 2. You know, it's not going to be like that insane, but something to keep an eye out for because they will be rolling out a lot of these banners. Now, Masashi herself, I believe, is becoming on a buff that she gets during this campaign that extends her double hits to not just being a 1-turn effect, it becomes a 3-turn effect and also gives her DR, or I guess damage taken, you know, reduction, whatever you want to call it. This, I cannot stress enough, makes her so good because the one issue I had with Masashi is that she gets so much value off of the double hits. I mean, if you ever used Masashi, you know that you crit while the double hits are up on your arts card, you're refunding like over 100% of your NP, at least if you have her over NP1. It functionally reads just 100% battery, so it's really dummy good if you're doing, say, like a solo with Masashi, because you guarantee have that arts card every single time, and now you have it for 3 turns, you're pretty much going to guarantee that you're going to be smacking the enemy with 3 NPs in a row, and if you've ever used Masashi, you know she does a lot of damage, especially against alter egos and moon cancers, and we're going to be coming up on some moon cancer and alter ego bosses in the near future. To not spoil too much, there are some enemies in Lost Belt 7 that are alter egos. Then obviously, as you know, moving into the different Ordeal Call chapters, one of them focuses on alter egos, one of them focuses on Avengers, and the most recent one that was running for like 50 days over here on the JP side of things, that one focused solely on moon cancer. So she's going to be one of those servants that actually will get some pretty good value moving forward, especially because Ordeal Call 3 did bring in just a ton of new moon cancer servants. They pretty much just dropped like 4 of them on us. That's potentially more bosses or more enemies for Masashi to get power mod against. Kind of expanded the Mooncaster, you know, class pool, if you will, which just gives Masashi more victims to go fight against. So I do think she is very, very strong if you do want to go pull for her. I bring this all up in this video, though, with, you know, the understanding that if you do not have some of the very strong supports that are going to be coming out at the end of the year, your Castoria, Koyanskaya Light, and Oberon, I would highly advise going for them first. FGO is one of those games, and I say this all the time, that if you can secure good support, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Like, once you have Castoria, you can functionally do whatever you want with your art servants. You know, you can use whoever you want to use. This also applies to Buster. I mean, not just for farming, because Koyanskaya kind of is hard gate kept by like the 30 to 50% battery Buster servants, depending on your setup. But if you just want to bring someone that can do really good crits and whatnot, you know, say like a Jolter right now who doesn't have her battery, but you could still bring double Koyanskaya with her to loop her skills back and then just give her extra battery so she can more consistently fire her NP every single turn. It's stuff like that. They just really make your blocks more manageable, right? It just opens up a lot of doors for what you're able to do with what servants. So I'd highly advise going for that. And then obviously next year is jam-packed with a very just broken straight up servants. I mean, even the ones that aren't broken, like say Takasugi, Pope Joanna, they're still just good servants in general. Like, they're just solid. So So at least, make that understanding as well, kind of think about, okay, like I really like Jalter, but any Saint Quartz I use on this Jalter banner is going to be stuff that I can't use on, say, Berserker Castoria or Draco or Tiamat. But if you're kind of at peace with that, or you're maybe more of like a light dolphin, or maybe even an Omega Whale and you just don't care about that, then by all means go summon on these banners. With that being said, let me know what banner you're going to be summoning on, if you're going to be summoning on any of these, in the comment section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace late, guys.